Good afternoon. Today at the In My Opinion show will host Christina Fitchett Hickson, incumbent candidate for the Burton City Council. Christina is outspoken, speaks her mind, and is not intimidated by prevalent forces of division in this country. Therefore, the show may be hard to take for some of her critics and friends. Christina is a former public school teacher and a profound teacher of men and boys who have lost their way. She is married to Jeff, her husband of many years, and they have 4 children. I would begin my show with a monologue, and I kind of borrowed this from the George Moss show. um, the In My Opinion show, originally produced and directed by Ronald Barry Robinson, has evolved over the years into a powerful and recognized platform for addressing topics that politicians often evade or avoid to address. um, Oftentimes, there's a potential backlash from their constituents. These elected officials may face threats if they vote against legislation that benefits only a select few. The In My Opinion show advocates for legislation that aims to benefit all Americans rather than creating winners and losers, as argued by Thomas Sowell, Victor David Hanson, and others. The show believes that a laissez-faire approach, emphasizing fair and just outcomes for all Americans, should be guided by the marketplace, in line with the ideas of the Constitution framers and the concerns raised by the Federalist Papers. In summary, the In My Opinion show encourages all Americans to cherish and uphold the freedom of speech and to enjoy the blessings of liberty in a free and democratic society where everyone is entitled to their opinion, even if it's not always in line with the facts. Christina, welcome to Flint, Michigan, the home of the In My Opinion show, produced and directed by Ronald Barry Robinson, whom you saw a couple days ago, who gave that compelling, powerful address to the American people questioning whether the United States was on the right track in accordance with the Constitution of the United States. Briefly tell us about yourself, Christina.
Well, I guess the first thing I am is I'm a servant of the Most High God. I'm a Christian. The second thing, I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a teacher. I'm a friend, and I try to be an advocate for people. I try to, try to help the people who are the underdogs. Yeah, it's kind of it. I was born a pastor's daughter, so of course I had my upbringing with Christianity, and I just kind of went from there. I became a student, of course, and worked my way, graduated from Bendel, which is in the area, which actually in Burton, which is who my constituents are right now. So that was really nice. And they elected me in 2021. And I've always tried to be there for people, my family. I've done things of servitude for the community, like just being there for the people when they needed me. They would call me up and they would ask me questions and I would answer them. There's a lot going on, in Burton sometimes, and it gets a little political. There was one time I remember in particular that there was a roundabout situation recently, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running.
Well, thank you. I think that most Americans,
Again.
and particularly the audience that you're addressing today, which is a pluralistic audience.
Mm,
They're not all Eurocentric.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, what are the key principles of municipal government to which you are running? What are your duties? What do you do? What are the key things that you?
I would say, from my point of view, as just kind of like them, if I'm one of them, one of the normal people who don't really get too much involved in government, but just decided to
No,
get
what
out there and do it. So
what
we do the budget.
okay, the
That's the
budget
big
is
thing.
one. The
That's the
budget is one.
budget. It's a
But you
big
also
thing.
do other
Yes.
what make that difference?
We okay the budget that comes out.
You
If they
approve the
wanna
budget.
change the budget,
You
we
approve
have
the
to approve
yes, okay.
changes. If they want to approve laws, we have to approve those changes in the laws, in the bylaws and in the, I don't think, I don't think I was there during any time when they changed, much of our charter, but, our charter is pretty much our constitution, when it comes
Sure,
to city
sure.
government.
So you help to create policy as well. That's what
Yes.
all
Yes, we do.
municipal systems and
Mhm.
of government, whether it's local, state, or national,
That's
they
right.
create policies.
Yep.
Policies called laws and regulations,
It
right?
starts out small and it grows bigger.
Why do you, Christina, why do you feel compelled to vote to seek a third term? What is compelling about out there, the issues that drive you?
Um, I feel like we still need to have, um, somebody that's gonna sit there and actually go over all the paperwork, to read it, to have the time to do it. This a tough job. You can't just skip through things. You can't just, you know, look at something and say, "Oh, yeah, I looked at it," and then put it down. You have to actually study it. Von Smith and I, we would study the, budget together, and we would spend sometimes an hour having a conversation about how the budget works and the different things, like, I mean, people depend on their, um, being able to retire from Burton City. We're all part of that too.
Well, the first thing, Christina, are the services that they provide.
Yeah.
Police protection, water,
Yeah.
um,
All of it.
schools,
There's so much.
and buses, transportation.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is the municipal government's responsibility.
Right. Right.
And so that's what you principally govern over,
That's
right?
right.
Right. So you create policies to drive the implementation
That's right.
of these actions, right?
Right.
Now, what I want to do is to ask you questions that pertain to your local jurisdiction over which you have, over your local municipality, over which you have jurisdiction.
Okay.
And I'd like to ask you some questions that has to do with the federal and state government, which you do not have jurisdiction,
No, I do not.
but but you can influence them because you're part of the electorate.
That's
You're
right.
a
I
member
I
of the
can I
electorate.
can vote.
So that's why. And some of these
And I'm a
questions,
delegate as well, so.
okay, this is why some of the questions that I may ask you are somewhat maybe contentious and they may be um, difficult. So, but all I ask is for you to respond to the way that the way that you see them, not the way that you want that other people expect for you to respond to,
Mhm.
but how you really feel about it to establish some confidence and truth and guidance for the people who are watching the show.
Mm.
So, the next question I believe I'll ask you is you had an incident. Um, do you believe that JFK, the director, or rather the chairman of health services, is on the
Okay.
right track?
Well, since
What's your
2005
experience?
since 2005, my cousin and I, Janet, we've been trying to study health and nutrition. She's passed away since then and just kinda left it just to me because she was a naturopathic doctor, and so I just kinda, it got me interested, and I started studying it myself, and, I don't know, there's just things that didn't add up. And then COVID come along, and that sometimes didn't add up. And so when JFK come along, he came along in a time where people were like, "Wait a minute." They're starting to think for themselves. They're not starting to follow things just because someone told them that's the case. They started trying to do their own research. And they had to go deeper into the research. They had to go back into the years of like 1970s, 1960s, 1950s, 40s, where they actually did report things that were um, not popular, and that took money away from certain people. But I love it that JFK is going to get in there and he's going to make sure that he's getting the truth. He's gonna do his own research that's not paid for by other people. I think he's gonna get in there and he's gonna try to be bipartisan on all of this. I really do. I think he's not gonna try to be partisan. I'm sorry, RFK. I
I
didn't mean to
do.
say JFK.
Okay.
Um, just kind of following the lead there. Um, anyway, RFK, he's being the son of a very prominent person. I think he had already a voice, and so he was using that voice even before Trump became president, and a lot of people thought of him as on the right track because we were wondering about the same things. Is there really enough research to prove the advocacy of such practices? Should we continue doing the same thing expecting different outcomes? And so I guess we were just kinda asking ourselves, are we being insane? Because that's the definition of insanity, expecting a different outcome, doing the same thing over and over and over again.
What are some of the instances that indicate that people are beginning to listen to JFK? Cite some instances. What about schools?
RFK.
What about hospitals? What about we know that that the medical profession is probably anti, but what
Yes.
about the ones that are thinking of? What about parents who don't believe in vaccination? Tell us some of the incidents where you think that
Well,
he's effective.
my cousin Janet worked many, many years making sure that everyone had a right to say, "You know what? That's against my religion. I don't want a vaccination for my child." And I agreed with her because some kids had some very bad side effects. And at one point, my daughter had some really bad side effects. And we wondered if giving her more would have caused her more side effects. We didn't really take the chance. But she has all her vaccinations now. But we let her make that decision. We didn't make that decision for her. We let her make that decision as she got older. Um, we made sure that whatever it was that she was allergic to, that she wasn't exposed to it anymore. And, I mean, my daughter, when she was born, before we gave her first rounds of vaccinations, she was reading. She knew her letters, all her colors, most of her numbers, and she was like 2.
Speak quickly to the athletes. Athletes could completely reject the vaccination, COVID, and
Mhm.
all of them are alive today. What does that say?
Well, I think they wanted the right to be able to study more in depth because it wasn't something that had been studied for years and years. And it wasn't something that was just common knowledge. It wasn't something that everybody had already done and tried it. They knew what their chances were. So I can see that they would want to, as an athlete, wanting to have the best body temple, having the best body, that they would want to make sure they didn't put bad things in it. So they wanted to know what was in it, and when they found out there were certain ingredients that were questionable, they decided they would opt out, and they're doing good. I don't see any of them having issues. We didn't get a lot of die out of athletes. So I think maybe there was something that they knew that helped them get past it all. I don't know, but they were already see, people have said that COVID attacked the most people in the population that were, like, unhealthy. So if you're an athlete, you really don't have any chances of getting COVID because your body's already in this tip-top performance condition, right?
Well, let me add this.
So, I mean, it does make a lot of sense.
Athletes are in a climate where they are told to avoid the introduction of drugs into their system,
Yeah,
to enhancing drugs that make them run
yeah,
faster, they make them think faster, they
yeah.
make them stronger, and stuff like that. So they kind of have that impetus
Mhm.
to resist drug taking,
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. But still, some of them still do. They still use the enhancing drugs, thinking
mhm.
that they will
Well,
get away with it, but they get caught
yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
But let me move on. I know that we could spend a lot of time on this one. Thank you for
Yes.
the good responses here.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, where does Burton get its drinking water supply? Now, hang on. Is it the city of Flint? Is it Detroit? Where is it? Where does it get this water?
Well, I tried to do some research on that, but I kinda came up blank, except the fact that it was like Port Huron. There was some
Fort
kind
Huron.
of
You're
there's
right.
some
It gets
kind
it
of
from
pipeline that
the
goes to
Lake
Port
Fort
Huron.
Huron that is
Yeah.
controlled by Detroit.
Yes.
No, it does not get its water from Flint. Are you prepared and comfortable to talk about the events that happened in 2015 with the water crisis in Flint? Are you
Um,
familiar with that?
I'm familiar somewhat. When I was running in 2019 for Congress, we had a lot of people very concerned about that. That actually was well, actually, it was a 2020 election at the time, but it was 2019 that I was running during that time because I switched out to a state representative to help out a friend of mine. So, I didn't want to, like, step on his toes because he had decided to declare. So, I kinda stepped back and let him take that one. But, yeah, there were a lot of people that were very concerned about their water supplies, and many of them didn't wanna take showers, baths, nothing, because they didn't wanna get the water on them, and they had said that there was some kind of bacterial infection or something in the water, um, Legionnaire's disease or something like that, where, they would take a shower and they get sick, and that was something that went out. They did some kinda study on that, and it was kind of the symptoms were like, somebody having, like, pneumonia and stuff like that, and so there were, like, larger amounts of people dying in that city during,
Can I correct
that
you?
time of pneumonia.
Let me say this to clarify a point here.
Yes.
The water crisis in Flint, there were of two types.
Okay.
One
Yes.
had to do with Legionnaire's disease.
Yes.
The other had to do with the excessive lead in drinking water.
Yes.
Okay.
And in their
Now,
water too.
the government standards for lead in drinking water is 15 parts per billion for lead. And in August of 2015, they found 22 parts per billion.
Wow. That's really
And
high.
they have since worked on that and
Mhm.
worked out of those. And we're compliant with all of the, even though people don't drink the water, I do. I drink this water, I drink it all.
Mm.
And if you lived in Flint, you have been introduced to lead for many, many years. They began lead pipe way back in 2000, 1900
Yeah.
when they made distributions to homes. They had the way had to have a way of sealing the pipes so that you don't have infiltration of contaminants or the loss of water.
Mm.
So that worked for many years until they changed over to copper. Once they found that lead was a detriment to the human health and safety. But
Yes.
now, Kat, here is a dilemma. The EPA published a note to Congress, published a letter to Congress
Uh-huh.
in 1996 and said to Congress, drinking water is subject to great contamination,
Mm.
infiltration, that the pipes were leaking
Mhm.
and they were absorbing um, outside groundwater into the pipe, contaminating the water.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you can go back, all of this stuff you can find on the internet.
That makes
And
sense.
if you wanted, I got copies on my computer. They also published again that notice to the American people through Congress
Right.
that the pipes were leaking in 1999, and then
Wow.
again in 2005.
Oh, wow.
But yet nothing happened. And this is
They just
documented.
sit on it.
And not until the Flint water crisis, they found 22 parts per billion in drinking water.
Yeah.
It exceeded the standards by about 7 parts per billion.
Yeah, that's a lot.
and
Might
somebody
explain a
dropped the
lot of what
ball.
when I was teaching.
And everybody, and if you were in
Yeah.
Congress, you had to have known that because you received a report from the EPA. So
Hmm.
I wanted to let you know about the distinction between the
Yeah.
two degrees of contamination. One comes from a virus.
Right.
That's the Legionnaire's disease, I
Mhm.
believe.
Right.
And the other is, of course, is the lead.
The lead.
Lead is a contaminant.
Yeah.
But lead is everywhere present in drinking water. You can't get rid of it. They're
Right.
what they call the drinking water standards, and the drinking water standard shows that lead can never be eradicated in drinking water. It would always be there as
Mm.
part of the solubility of lead in water. Water is the universal constituent. Please
Mhm.
go on with the comments. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, no, you're good. I'm learning a lot. I like to learn. That's what teachers do. They're lifelong learners. But yeah, and sometimes their learning is a lifeline too. So, but like I was saying, like you were saying about the lead. When I was a teacher, we did have issues with lead in our schools. And I guess we didn't really even think about we could even be we could have even had the cause in our own neighborhoods. We always thought it was the paint. We always thought when the kids came up testing high for lead, because they would have, issues with
Sure,
learning and
sure.
stuff. We always thought when they came up high testing for lead, we didn't really think about it being in their drinking water. That would have been pretty cool if we could have fixed it that way, you know? But, we ended up painting homes, we ended I mean, they ended up doing their bedrooms over, getting the lead out of everything that they could think of, but we never thought to even think about their pipes. So,
Do you
it's
think
interesting.
what you've read and what you've heard, do you think the drinking water is safe for the residents of the city of Flint? Now, you don't live in Flint, but you just from what you know a as an educator and as a reader
Hmm.
and as a person who
Well, I have a
learns.
friend who lives in Flint, and she's wanting to test the water as well because her child grew up in Flint.
Do you think there was a lot of hyperbole in how
It could
we
have been.
characterized the drinking water?
It could have been. I mean, it was people just found out that there were things going on, and they just quickly decided that everything was unsafe no matter where you lived in Flint. And, at least that's the way it was going on around 2019. They were really freaking out over the Legionnaires and over, the, uh, the drinking water lead crisis later, which kinda brought testing going on. I just don't know if they tested the water as often as they should have.
Well,
Maybe they dropped the ball in the testing of the water because if the EPA already had said your water's not doing very well during those years, how come after that, how come we didn't do any testing, you know?
the job was too big.
It is a big job.
Everybody throughout the United States,
They
if
could
you
have done
had to
it piece by
do what
piece.
you did in every community, what you did for Brent, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have really money to run the budget.
I
That
think
was
that's just right
yeah,
what it is right there.
yeah,
The job was so big,
yeah.
they could not address it. It's kinda like what's going on at Kelly Lake right now in Burton. We have a job that's pretty big out there in the Parks and Recs, and we want to, like, try to get Kelly Lake, I don't know, like, workable again where people can feel comfortable going there and having a clean lake, and, um and so it's like it was a big job, and so it's gonna take a little at a time. You're gonna have to make it's gonna have to have a big stink first and have a conversation with the public, and then maybe people will do something about it, like with the roundabout. They
Well,
weren't gonna fix that roundabout situation. They weren't gonna cancel the project until all those people showed up at our city council meeting.
I think the city water problem is one of reality that we have to learn to live with. We're going to have to
Mhm.
share the available wealth around the country where we have, and we're going to have to work on the most critical situations. We can't get
Mhm.
everybody any
Right,
more than they can create all of the roads. The
right.
reality of repairing the darn roads. you got to
Mhm.
take care of primary roads first. Those are
Right,
the roads that carry
right,
traffic across back and forth across the state to feed our families and
right.
provide products and
The main
services.
highways and
Yeah,
things
I
like
mean,
that.
and then
Mhm,
there's secondary highways, which are
mhm,
state and county roads.
mhm,
And then there's the local roads that like I live on. I live on a
mhm.
road that's not paved and one that does not have the internet come down and so on and so forth.
Oh, wow.
And I love it that way. So um, the next, I got to move on to another question here for
Okay.
you. Um, when did the city of Burton, now this is you don't have to be right on this. You don't have to be exact. And I'm probably closer to the truth than most people because I researched it.
Oh, okay.
When did the city of Burton and the city of Flint proclaim themselves nonpartisan jurisdictions? Because it's not supported in law. How
Well,
can you
for
do
them it
that?
is. For them in our charter in Burton, it's
There's no
supported.
statute that supports it. And
In our
you
charter,
have to
it says in
comply with state law
right.
because your municipalities are created under state law, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's no state law that compels you to become nonpartisan. And besides, let me ask you this.
Okay.
If that's true, now, folks out there, you should listen to this.
Let's see if I can find it.
If that's true, that jurisdictions like Flint and Burton are nonpartisan, why is it that 90% of the vote are given to Democrats and 10% for Republicans? Does that sound like a nonpartisan situation? And maybe my question could be better asked than that, but there it is. It
Well,
doesn't fit the logic.
okay. Well, according to our charter, Charter 12 2, it says that we are a nonpartisan position
You
as a city
proclaimed that on
council.
your own.
No, it's right here.
Yeah, but did you proclaim it? But who? Where'd you? It's not in state law. The law doesn't.
But they made it in their charter.
Yeah.
So, as far as a city council person,
Mhm.
the charter is our law.
Okay. But
We're
then,
supposed to go by it.
but is it a truth? Does it? As I said before in my words here. Let me see. Well, how did I say that?
It says right here, the election of all city officers as provided in this charter shall be on a nonpartisan basis.
Okay, that's a proclamation by your
Yeah.
charter.
Yeah.
You self pulled yourself up to that
Mhm.
because it does not fit the data.
The
Uh,
data may not be that way, but it
Yeah.
doesn't see, here's the way it works in the United States of America, and I know
Okay.
you know this.
Okay.
Whether you are the president of the United States, you're still the president of the United States for all.
Yes.
You don't care if they're Republican,
No, you
independent,
shouldn't care.
Democrat. That's the way the presidential works.
Yes.
The election and the executive branch truly is not really caring either way. They go by the law. They look at the law. At least they're supposed to. And so that's, I think, since we're like the executive branch, sort of speaking, we're not really the police, but yet we do have the police under our budget. We do, you see what I'm saying? Not that we tell them what to do, but we do help. We're the lawmaking branch, we're the legislative branch. But, because we are part of that, I think the legislative branch in Burton needs to be able to, I say this way, trying to get this right because you're talking partisan and nonpartisan, but really it's do I represent all people? And that's what I need to be able to do. Not just the people that, are in my demographics, but the people that are other parts of the demographics, like the poorer people, the richer people, the girls, the boys, the everybody's. And I think they need to know that. That's why they put it in the charter like that. I think they wanted us to know that when we elect people, we're electing them for them. They're not getting elected to do their own little ideas and choose what they're going to do with the money and put it in the pet projects. And They're not elected to do that. They're elected to listen to the people. The people don't want a roundabout. If people don't want a
Okay.
roundabout, then the people don't have to have one.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you believe in affirmative action?
Affirmative action is actually it's no longer being practiced in America, as far as I know.
It means it's illegal by law.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so.
Okay.
I never really believed in it, even though I benefit from it. I
Yeah.
would definitely
How
benefit.
do you benefit from it?
Well, I'm Native American, and I'm also I just found out that my great grandfather was Nigerian. So being, I always wondered why he looked he looked like Sanford and Sons. I was like, I always wondered, as a kid, you're growing up, you don't really know anything, and you're already not caring about race and everything. You love everybody, you got friends of every kind of demographic. But, I just I would have benefited from it.
Well,
But
okay. But
I actually almost got full college scholarship because of Native American part.
yeah, and I can tell.
Mhm.
Let me ask you another quick question. Do you believe in reparations?
Well, when you deal with reparations, you actually have to ask yourself, you got to make it fair. So, how can you make it fair? I mean, if someone really truly is getting reparations, it should be something that they've actually had an issue with, that somebody actually wronged them, and that person that wronged them, or the group that wronged them, or whatever, is still present. Um, like for instance, I'm not even sure if we should have reparations for those people who have been found not guilty and yet had to spend like 5 years of their life suffering for something they really didn't do. So that they were accused of, never really got a fair trial, and kind of never got
I got
truly,
about 30
you know?
seconds left. I got to
So
ask
to
you
me,
this
that's
question.
reparations.
Okay, we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to invite you back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this.
You just have to figure out who's gonna get them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gotta be fair.
It's got to be fair. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer. And I know that this is challenging to many of our listeners out there, but it's the first time that a politician has ever brought that to the surface, because
Mm,
most politicians are afraid to surface that. And these kind of issues linger for years, decades, and years, and sometimes never solved.
yeah,
But here on the
unfortunately.
In My Opinion show, you had an opinion, you surfaced it, you introduced it for discussion. I appreciate that. Now our show comes to a close. We got to do this again because you are really interesting to listen to.
Well, thank you.
And I hope that our audience will find you an interesting person as well. Our show now is coming to an end. And in yeah, vote for Christina on November 4th.
I
Thank you.
I represent everyone.
Okay, thank you. Please consider
Thank you.
that, folks. Those are who are in her jurisdiction. Vote for Christina. The animation show is over. Thank you.